Good morning, folks, wherever you are out there. Welcome. You are listening to the Charge Life Podcast. I am Joseph Barletta, and this is where we discuss EVs and all things EV charging. So glad you could pull over and park with us today. Hey, let's get plugged in. Hey, look, today's episode is all about charging etiquette, icing, hogging, squatting. What are they? I don't know. You're going to love it. Before we begin, today's episode is brought to you by Smart Charge America. Since 2007, Smart Charge America has installed tens of thousands of EV charging stations nationwide, and they can do the same for you today. Whether in the home, commercial, fleet, service, let their team of expert installation specialists guide you to the best charging solution for your needs. After all, if you can't charge, you can't drive. Visit smartchargeamerica.com today to get a free quote. All right, so charging etiquette, icing, hogging, and squatting. So we're going to put it into this, okay? What are they? I don't know. Here's the deal. We have EV charging stations outside and out front of our headquarters, okay? And there's like 8 units. Beautiful setup. You can imagine. Well, we have businesses on either side of us, and their employees are starting to own EVs, and they're starting to actually come in, kind of build it, and they'll come. That is very much true for workplace charging. The problem is that the speed at which they come is a lot slower than you otherwise would anticipate. So if you want to look at icing, so we all know what icing is. ICE stands for internal combustion engine. And what icing is when you have a designated EV charging spot. Let's say you have a 2 parking spaces and you have a dual port charger right there, and that charger is providing charging cable access to both of those parking spaces. Well, you have your sign up, you have your parking ballards, you even have your striped, you have it all the works, like clearly indicated, hey, this parking space is for EV charging only, and that's a very important message that you get across. It's for EV charging only, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. Icing is when an actual internal combustion engine car actually clogs up one of those spots, and so we call it icing. It's not like the icing on the cake, but it's just icing. There's an internal combustion engine that's taking up one of those spots, and unfortunately is not allowing someone who actually needs that charge to come in and charge. So we always tell our guys, if we see a car out there, we'll try to catch the person in transit. They usually are in and out, and if parking's a little bit tight, I kind of show a little grace, like, hey, look, all the chargers aren't taken up, so I'm fine. But as the chargers get more and more popular, it does become frustrating. The one thing we don't have out there is parking lot striping. So we have not painted the parking space like really loud and clear that this is a EV charging. Typically with signage, with protection ballards, with tow enforcement, and the parking lot striping, you probably will lessen the effect that you'll be iced. But there are still those customers out there that they don't really care. They don't care. They're going to do it anyway, regardless. Just try to have a little grace, try to have a little understanding. Maybe they're in a rush. You don't know what frequency they're on. They're not going to be on the same frequency as you. So, but that's what icing is. It's when an internal combustion car takes up an EV charging space. Okay, got it. Okay, well, what the hell is hogging? So one of the things that we noticed with our EV charging here at the workplace was that we had some drivers come in and they would just park their EV in the parking space where the EV charger is, and then they would just go inside and they just go to work. They wouldn't plug in. And so hogging is basically when an EV parks in an EV charging spot but doesn't charge, right? So that's bad. I actually had to go outside and talk to the guys and be like, hey man, look, I get it. This isn't an EV reserved parking space. This is for EV charging. And so it's very important that your signage, which you can buy on smartchargeamerica.com, our website, your signage basically states EV charging only. That's it. So electric vehicle charging only. That's what your signage should state. If you want to further enforce towing and all of this stuff, you could put a little tow sign, underneath. But make sure your parking, lot has a towing contract in force, so that way you can actually enforce it. But that's the nature of hogging, is when an EV actually parks into an EV charging spot but doesn't charge. It's just kind of hogging. He's hogging the spot. He thinks he's entitled. He's like, dude, give a little more courtesy. Have a little more courtesy. That's kind of the charging etiquette that we're talking about here. just go park in another. If you don't need a charge, great. Save that parking spot for someone who does need a charge. Don't necessarily think you're entitled, oh, just because I have an EV, I'm a charge, I'm gonna be closer and not actually charge. That's the benefit of the actual charging spot. It's for electric vehicle charging only, not electric vehicle parking only. It's a very, very slight wording in the signage, but it means the world. So that being said, guys, if you can, go ahead and click thumbs up icon, comment to our podcast if you like it. Let us know. So again, Icing, internal combustion engine, regular car just parks in the parking spot. Not good. Hogging, when an EV actually parks in the EV charging parking spot and doesn't charge. There's another term called squatting. Some of this you'll hear like idling fees being assessed or whatever, but loitering, I've heard it called loitering. But typically in the industry it's called squatting. So squatting, basically the way we see it is when an EV car parks, charges, he only needs, let's say, 2 hours of charge before he reaches, his max. So he charges for 2 hours. But then he doesn't come and get the car, and the car sits there for 8 to 10 hours. That car could have easily been revolved, and that charging station could have got maybe, 3-4 more sessions in that same amount of time, but it didn't, because the car that's plugged in is basically fully charged. It's just squatting. It's like a squatter. So, it's when an EV parks in a charging spot, finishes this charging session, but remains plugged in because either they're busy or whatnot. It just have a little courtesy, have a little consideration that, hey, look, I'm fully charged. Let me go ahead and move my EV. Now, there's workplace policies. There's all kinds of policies that workplace charging, they've instituted to help that. There's waiting lists. There's all these things that you could do, Slack channels and everything else. Hey, guys, I moved my car. Whoever's next, do that. But that's squatting. So, one, as an industry, we need to try to avoid icing altogether. Do the things that you need to do to set up your site to minimize that. Of course, signage, parking lot striping, asset protection, lighting. These are all things that really showcase this is for EV charging only. Hogging something that you're just going to have to address when you see it. Because most people think, oh, that's an EV, it's parked in an EV charging spot, we're fine. But actually, like, when you take another look at it, is it plugged in? No, it's not. Damn, what's going on, man? And then, of course, the squatting. So we got a couple of audience questions here. What is this? What can I do to alert the driver if anyone is misusing the chargers? What can I do to alert the driver if anyone's misusing the charger? Well, one thing you don't want to do is, flatten the tires and write a pissed off note. Get to it. You don't want to do that. Just be nice. If it's, a lot can be done with like automated notifications inside like the actual app usage. You can like inform drivers, hey, so forth and so on. But again, if somebody's misusing the chargers, we used to have this little courtesy card. It was like a little business card on the side. It basically said, "Hey, keep in mind, we know you needed the charging station. We appreciate that, but we know you needed to park in a hurry. We appreciate that, but these parking spaces are generally meant for EV charging." I used to have the card around me. I'll probably have to pull it up somewhere, but it was just a nice note for like, "Hey, man, if you ever need anything, give us a call. We appreciate you stopping by today." Like that's it. But just kind of reframing, otherwise, and we put it, we won't put it on the windshield. We put it on their, like where their handle meets their glass on their vehicle, and kind of tuck it in right there. So that way they could see it like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. As long as you're nice about it, you gotta be really, really nice, because again, they didn't do it to be malicious. And if they did, well, then they're kind of on a different wavelength, and you just kind of want to say, hey, look, I get it, but just keep in mind that, this is for, there's a lot of money. We put a substantial investment in here, and we want to be able to make sure that these parking spaces are reserved for charging. So just be nice. Just be nice. Okay, that's what you do. Just be nice. What can my workplace charging setup do to avoid this type of behavior? like we talked about before, there's the signage, there's the towing and force, there's the striping, there's flex pricing you could do as a charge point operator. You can insert idle fees, loitering fees. You can actually have different pricing policies based on the behaviors that you want to see out of your EV drivers. There's waiting lists, but then there's also like fines and ticketing, like actually enforcing these things. That is the best. So that's where I would say if you're workplace charging and you have to set up, you have a little bit more control of that, especially if you have like gated access and only your employees are there, you definitely have a lot more control. But if it's more public charging, you can use these pricing policies and some of these waiting lists and features and stuff like that to kind of get the behavior that you want out of it. Who are the people usually doing this? I mean, between Icing and Hogging, they're just on a different wavelength. I wouldn't say they're usually confrontational folks, but possibly maybe they're new EV drivers if they're hogging, or or if they're squatting. Like they wasn't sure, they didn't know how it worked. They didn't set up their phone app to give them notifications to alert them. They forgot. They're busy. They got 6 kids hanging on them. Like, I get it. I don't think anyone's doing it maliciously. There was a big curb when EVs first became popular on doing this, and coal rolling and people parking their diesel trucks, and blocking off. And it's like a political stance. I don't know. Don't really see that too much. But look, just knowing the difference between, I guess, just simply knowing the difference between the three can help you identify the behaviors that you want to see out of your charging site setup, and hopefully you can get some pricing policies in there and some features and so forth and so on, wait list and everything to, basically get the behaviors that you want to get out of the site. As a charge point operator, you're looking into, one, reliability, uptime, and you're also looking into like increasing utilization across the board on all your chargers. If your chargers aren't being used, then either you're not making money or you're not providing that service to your customers or your employees. And so that's a big thing for a charge point operator or a business that owns EV charging. That's like their main thing. They want to make sure all their EV chargers are working and that they're being used, right? And so these things are the things that are going to get in the way. They're going to be a bottleneck to that usage. And so just simply knowing the difference that helps you, as a driver, avoid abusing the use of these public charging stations for you if you're an EV driver, but you also can like discuss with your friends and maybe I don't know, just discuss some of the things with your friends or maybe fellow EV drivers, so that way when they're approached and they're like, ooh, maybe I can do a hog. I really need to be like, you know what? I don't want to be that guy. So and that behavior tends to definitely grow on that end. Guys, look, thank you so much for our listeners and subscribers today. We can't do this show without you, so I definitely hope you all learned something. I do it every single time I talk to you guys, so I absolutely love it. Thanks again for charging up with us today. Keep in mind, you can always find us at smartchargeamerica.com for a free quote. And remember, folks, like I said, if you can't charge, you can't drive. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you again next time. Cheers.